Right. So, Keir Starmer puckering up to plant a wet one on the posterior of the pernicious proprietor of poisonous papers that is Rupert Murdoch. It's not much of a news story to cover, you might think. We know he does it. The guy who swore when standing for Labour leader that he would never speak to the scum because he knew the hurt that hate rag had caused. Didn't make him bat an eyelid, though, when it came to writing for them, no less, after he got elected, though, did it? Sod the hurt caused. He wants to be PM, and he's been courting creepy Uncle Rupert ever since. But the scale of that courtship might be something we're all underestimating. Because by the sounds of things, Starmer isn't just tapping up those working for the walking nutsack for the occasional column, apparently. They can't get rid of him around Murdoch Towers, and it started long before he even entered politics. He was sniffing around back when he was still Director of Public Prosecutions at the CPS. You might recall Starmer was DPP once upon a time. I know he doesn't mention it very often, but yeah, you might be surprised to learn this. And you might also recall that Starmer showed up along with Sunak and other senior politicians to Murdoch's summer party earlier this year, but it wasn't his first visit. Starmer became DPP at the CPS in 2008, and he got an invite to that 2009 summer party too, the very following one. In fact, between 2008 and 2013, Starmer's tenure as DPP, he accepted Murdoch's hospitality no fewer than 10 times. In fact, for all of his protestations about not wanting to speak to the scum, people from that particular rag were the only Murdoch people he actively chose to socialise with in his downtime, having lunched with the likes of Rebekah and Dominic Mohan, only ending them when the phone hacking scandal broke in 2011, and he put a little bit of distance between them and himself. In fact, Starmer stopped declaring hospitality after 2011 full stop, so between then and 2013, there's no record of who he may have attended further hospitality events with. From an official DPP perspective, he did attend lunches and drinks with journalists from the Scum, Times, Sunday Times, that 2009 summer party of Murdoch's, and also showed up at the Times Christmas party. How lovely. Considering the rest of the British media for a moment, the non-Murdoch ones, all in all, Starmer accepted hospitality collectively from them just 6 times by comparison, and attended no other newspaper organisations' parties. All in all, Starmer is known to have hobnobbed with journalists as DPP some 20 times in total, the last time in June of 2011. It's particularly notable, though. He attended lunch with a Times journalist called David Leppard. Now, Leppard was best known probably for breaking the bullshit story about Michael Foot being a Soviet agent way back when, as if working for Murdoch didn't imply enough. Well, 6 months earlier in January, Leppard had had a scoop, an exclusive, that an MI6 agent under investigation by the Met since 2009 for potential wrongdoing was going to have their case dropped. This was all according to Whitehall sources. Was Starmer himself the source? Makes you wonder, but sure, he had lunch with the guy who broke that story. The phone hacking scandal then broke. Starmer stopped lunching with Murdoch journos, but the Times Christmas party he attended was in 2011, so sometime after. He made a bit of an exception there then. Let's fast forward a bit. He became an MP in 2015, served in Corbyn's shadow cabinet. Of course, there was much leaking to the media every time there was a heated argument involving Corbyn behind closed doors. Those anonymous Labour sources. But it was quite the coincidence when many of the Times journalists reporting on such actions happened to be people Starmer used to enjoy lunch with. Was he one such anonymous source? Well, we can't say for sure, obviously. That'd be libelous. He certainly did have the connections to do so, if so inclined. Of course, Starmer later became Labour leader. In his first interview, went to another former lunch partner from the Times and stuffed it behind a paywall, as he has done so often since. Starmer attended Murdoch's summer party earlier this year, and everyone who went was chosen by Murdoch. And each person who got invited, apparently, had a 5-minute one-to-one session with Murdoch himself, where he basically held court, in effect, like some sort of bold, shriveled Henry VIII, and our country's leading politicians, all the ones who went there, from Starmer to Rachel Reeves, Wes Streeting, Rishi Sunak, Sadiq Khan and more, would have met with him as if they were meeting the king. But less well reported was the fact earlier the same day he was in attendance at the News Corp CEO Summit, and one News Corp source has said, "We can't keep him away." Reinforcing his favouritism towards Murdoch was the fact that another party he was invited to by the right-wing Spectator, he declined, and sent Shadow Ministers Wes Streeting and Jonathan Ashworth to kiss their backsides instead, because he was off to Kent to launch his education policy, best remembered for a couple of protesters unveiling a banner behind him and urging Starmer to take climate change more seriously than he was. But the details of what he was going to say on education were leaked the night before to the Times again. Keir Starmer led government could be more Murdoch indoctrinated based on the circumstantial evidence we have of his past. All of this has come out via investigations from Declassified UK, than a Tory one by the looks of it. And we have to remember what Murdoch wants out of this country, because he's against the working class, he's against strike action, he's against the NHS, he's against the BBC, and the list goes on. So expect Starmer policy to basically match and work in lockstep with that, seeking this guy's approval, as seems to be a driving force for him. He won't turn out on a picket line already, we know that. He's against wealth taxes. They've already said that. Rachel Reeves has come out against a banker's tax, saying she can't see the sense in it. And it all smacks of someone else calling the shots because their excuses are really, really poor and bloody pathetic. And as much as we can look at this and think, oh, it's Blair and Mandelson, we have to remember they were utterly owned by Rupert Murdoch as well. Now, I've attacked Reform UK for being the Rupert Murdoch Party, their leadership from Richard Tice to David Bull, literally employed by Murdoch on Talk TV. But Starmer's Labour could be as well, in a manner that even Blair didn't stoop to himself. If you can't stand Murdoch, perhaps don't vote for somebody who apparently his offices can't get rid of. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Feel free to leave a comment and join the conversation on all of this, of course. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where another of Starmer's DPP Days issues is coming back to haunt him as well, now regardless of his involvement in it or not, and says it's a case of Jimmy Savile. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.